Welcome to the Sideboard podcast, guys. This is episode 3, coming back to you with me, Caleb, and Tim.
What's up, everybody?
So this episode, we're just going to get right into it. We're going over some of the new revealed anniversary box cards, mainly reprints, and then the newly revealed archetype with AOD, Agents of Destruction. So let's just get right into it. Tim, what's your favorite reprint so far?
Reprint.
So we're going to go first with art. What's your favorite art? And then second for market value wise, like you wanted it reprinted because it's expensive.
So, art-wise, hands down, Familial Bonds. That was absolute. They nailed it. Home run, grand slam, like above and beyond all other reprints, art-wise, I think. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, the Familial Bonds look really nice. I think once I saw the foiling of the new cards, it was a little bit better for me. I just really like the style of that one. Some of them I think are kind of dull, though, which I didn't really like.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, obviously, I don't think they showed foiling of Time Regulator, but the art in general on that one seemed like really dull and I guess kind of muddy. Like it all just kind of was blurred together, it felt like.
Yeah, which I don't personally like. I like a high contrast. So yeah, Bonds is good. I actually really liked the ape, the Warcry.
Yeah, that art was really cool, I thought.
So I'm actually just going to pull them up here real quick.
I think possible contender for second best art would be between Raiders Warcry and the blue-yellow Bojack.
Yeah, the blue-yellow one's nice because they did it in the new AOD art, which is really, really cool.
The styling on the new Agents of Destruction is incredible.
Although I don't think I'll like them in non-foil.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to look kind of lame.
That's definitely a like maximum bling deck, or just don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then what reprint do you like for market purposes? Like, which one are you excited to be able to get now that it's being reprinted?
I think everyone can agree with me on this, probably you also, that Raiders Warcry is probably the best value reprint out of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of obvious. Aside from that, I actually really like the Draftbox 4 dual color cards that are being reprinted.
Yeah, a couple of those ones started to pick up a bit, like the Hercule Boo, that one was picking up. Chompabeerus is a good one also.
Yeah, and then the Sun Gohan and Goku Saiyans of Earth.
Oh, yeah.
The blue-green one.
Did they show the art for that one yet?
I don't think they showed the art, but I know it's being reprinted.
Yeah. I'm excited for the art on that one.
Yeah, that's I think that's one of our mutual favorite cards.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so as you guys know, they're reprinting a bunch of cards. If you want to check those out, go ahead and head over to the Dragon Ball Super card game page or our post on Facebook. We shared some of the reprints and we'll share them as they continue to come out. Check it out, Sideboard Podcast on Facebook or Podbean.
Another point about the reprints and stuff is like how they'll affect the market value of cards already in circulation and already in print or previously in print. Like especially, with the whole AOD engine and the anniversary box, new cards, pretty much half of it is AOD stuff. It started to make the old engine and old cards spike a little bit. Not just the secret, but even, the stuff that was pennies or just $1 or $2. I'm pretty sure I saw someone selling like the whole engine minus the secret rare for like almost $100 earlier, and I was like, wow.
For Agents?
Yeah,
they have definitely done a good job of resurging the value of some older archetypes with new support,
which is cool. I think a couple of the archetypes, I think they just barely missed the mark on a couple of them, like the Frieza Prison stuff. I'm not super impressed with, but I wasn't like, oh, this is garbage. I know people weren't super hyped on the Kid Coup stuff that they put in there, even though it's not bad. It just wasn't enough to like propel it like what they did with Agents.
Right. For Skilless in particular, I think they're in a pretty good spot right now. I mean, they got their support from set 10 and then a little bit more in the anniversary box.
Yeah, like mono red Skilless it's looking pretty good. I think it might be time for another color to come back.
Right.
Maybe blue, maybe yellow. I know back at Celebrations there was those few weird people playing mono green. That was awkward, but or maybe even multicolor Kid Coup again.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It could be good. We'll see. We'll have to see what people brew up.
So that's going to bring us to kind of the hot topic of this episode.
I know you're excited for this one.
Oh, yes. This is near and dear to my heart. I have an old article up. We can find it and link it, in the Facebook post or some stuff for anybody who wants to brush up on Agents of Destruction in the Dragon Ball Super card game. Kind of the old way to play it, how the engine and combos and everything worked, or even, the non-combo version in the past, and kind of the differences between then and now and all that stuff. But we will definitely be linking the old article. And then, if anyone has questions about the archetype, how any of it works, please, feel free to comment, on any platform questions, and we will, reach back out and help you guys out.
Yeah, we're going to go over some of that today, though. So let's just dig right into it, Tim. So for Agents of Destruction, I know the old deck was Dende, the leader, for the most part.
So that was kind of like the rise of AOD and like, the quote unquote golden age. Personally, that was my favorite way to play it. Unfortunately, the deck got hit with a Child's Wish being banned because of Super Shenron. And, when that ban happened, I understood that a Child's Wish wasn't okay at the time because of Super Shenron, but I think in other decks it was fine. Even Agents, as borderline oppressive as it could have been, that the deck had a lot of RNG to it.
Right.
I can't tell you the number of times that I, Dangerous Journey Bulma shuffled my secret back into my deck just to redraw back into it. It's like, no.
Right. I think that's kind of a good point. Do you think that a Child's Wish could come back in today's meta with the thought of, at its best, right, an AOD deck going first on turn 2, being able to do the full combo? I think that's pretty oppressive.
I think it is, but at the same time, there's so much more interaction in the game now that I think it would be okay, because I think I only turn 2 comboed once out of the 5 or 6 months that we had AOD at full power.
Yeah,
probably about 5 months. I only turn 2'd someone once. It was like absolute god hand, god draws.
Right.
Other than that, it was usually, consistently turn 3, or, if you had to play around disruption, turn 4, which a turn 4 kill is kind of like what today's games are anyways, turn 3, turn 4, with the exception of like, Sin Shenron and Invoker and the control decks.
Right. I don't know. It's just a scary sight. I've been on the other side of the turn 2 combo going second, and let me tell you, it is not very fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot more interaction, like you said. So if you go turn 3 combo, I guess that gives the opponent time to set up a unison and have a counterplay active. So
I think it would be okay to bring back just to test the waters, and if it's not okay, just reban it.
yeah,
I don't think anyone will be upset over that happening with common, uncommon,
right,
that everyone probably has hundreds of.
right. I don't know. We'll have to see.
But I mean, in the defense of, turn 2 decks, I mean, you saw me in our Team Wars event this weekend. I turn 2'd somebody with my leader still being on the front side.
Right.
That was wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unison turn 1 and then double unison turn 2 for victory.
Yeah, I mean, that's the risk with decks like Starter Broly, where they take their own life, especially against black decks that have a super combo that can hit for in Vegex, you can hit for 25, 30k per super combo.
I think my highest Bibbidi over the entire day was somewhere between 30 and 37. But I had gone through almost my entire deck.
Right, at that point.
I think it was turn 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing that scares me is that AOD with Child's Wish was able to keep their life pretty high and still do all that on turn 2. That's usually where quote unquote degeneracy comes from, is when there's no drawback. So we'll have to wait and see what it turns into.
I mean, maybe we can even try testing it in person, seeing how it is versus today's hyper interactive, or even decks that just don't do anything and then crit half your life on turn 3 or 4 or whatever.
Right.
Because that's the other side of it, is if I keep my life total high and then you just say crit for life, okay, well now I'm at 4, which is basically lethal against any deck.
Yeah. So
but yeah, so let's go into a little bit of the old AOD and how that worked. So like you said, Blue Dende Wish Leader was the de facto way to play the deck.
Right.
The reason for that was mostly because of your ability to burst. So it was burst 2 and then search 2 Dragon Balls, which was really good. So you played 1-star ball, and I liked playing Super Dragon Ball also, because that gave me a really good turn 2 play of drawing a bunch of cards, usually agents, and then discarding a Child's Wish and an agent. And then you do your Wish Awaken, which for Dende was get back a Desire, which was your Child's Wish.
Right.
So you basically drew 4 cards and discarded 1.
Right.
And that almost always set you up for the turn 3 kill, which was free Child's Wish on your Awaken side for the old 3-drop Surprise Attack Majin Buu, which would let you search your deck for the 5-drop to evolve onto Surprise Attack for 2 red. From that, you have your 5-drop, which has free Union Absorb. And the combo was you would absorb the old Barrier Majin Buu, fail to find your target, and then you would absorb a Bobbity from your hand. And at that point, if your opponent says no response, you would grab your secret from deck, and now you have a Bobbity under the secret, which procs his auto to reanimate 5 agents, or up to 5 agents from your drop and or warp.
Right. So back in the day it was pretty good. I think it's still going to be good these days. It's going to be a lot more difficult, like you said, because there's not going to be as much, first off, drawing, because one of the things people don't realize is that the Wish decks drew a lot of cards because they had Dragon Balls, and those were zeros in the deck for taking up space. So effectively they were playing with a 43 card deck.
Well, I like to think of it as 14 cards less,
Right,
because
because
you
you
have your
draw
7
one.
Dragon Balls and each one of them replaces itself.
Right,
So you were
exactly.
at 50 cards, you were effectively playing, what, a 36 card deck?
Yeah. So,
Which is almost half.
right. I think that's going to be one of the big problems with new AOD for the combo version is getting the agents in the drop, or
Yeah.
even just drawing them.
I'm not sure if the combo version is still
Viable.
really gonna exist.
Right. I
Like,
don't.
there's the threat of it, and like, I'm gonna be, playing around with it and trying to make it work. But I think the better approach now with all of the newer cards is gonna be playing more of a value game.
Right.
For any of you who are old players of Magic, you could probably equate new Agents of Destruction to like playing humans in the modern format. Every one of your creatures or battle cards in this case does something, whether it's interacting with your opponent or directly synergizing with your own deck. Each one of them does either A or B. And you have, the old 1-drop Bobbity that reduces the cost of all of them by 1. So now your 2 drops, a 1-drop, your 3 drops, which was almost all of them, are now 2 drops, which you can also play for free once per turn off of the new leader.
Right.
So I think that's going to be the better way to play the deck.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what color people use as their main color. A lot of people have been going towards green, but I think there's going to be a couple of different variations.
Yeah, I saw somewhere in the community page, someone was playing primarily green-yellow, and at least the agents were primarily green and yellow, and they were not playing the Boo Secret, they were playing Cell Xeno, which I thought was cool. It was a nice, kind of different way to finish the game. It takes up a little, or actually a lot less space of the deck, because now you don't have to shove in a bunch of extra bobbities, and I don't even think playing with the Boo Secret, I don't even think you play the Barrier Boo anymore.
Right. Yeah, I don't think the Boo Secret, unless you're playing the combo version, is going to be running the Barrier Boo at all. I think they're just going to pay 6 for the Activate main to bring it into play.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the main way to do it. I know that my first iteration of new agents, I was short on red cards. I know a lot of people in the community have kind of geared themselves towards playing the Goku Strength of Legends, because the deck is just naturally like a rainbow or 4-color deck.
Mm-hmm.
So you can play Strength of Legends without paying a cost for it and still be able to activate it for the double dual crit.
Yeah. On turn 4.
I've been liking that a lot as like your plan B. So plan A is just beat face with dudes that you're playing for a reduced cost, which is always good in this game.
Right.
Plan B is Strength of Legends, because sometimes that just kills someone when it comes down. And then I've been liking Plan C being the Boo Secret. And like I said, I was kind of short on red cards for Strength of Legends, so I added in Innocence Cannon, Majin Buu. Since your leader on the front side is an evil wizard, you can still use the Boo as a negate.
Okay,
and then you can still play the 5-drop Boo to Union Absorb. So you still have the option of combo for less than 6 mana at any point in the game. So I do like that as like a failsafe.
Yeah. It's going to come down a lot to deck space, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Even certain multicolor decks you're seeing these days not running the check lands that we used to play, the Broly and all that. So I think that I think the best iteration of the deck currently is just going to be like you were saying, a value engine with the agents, and then you'll have to pick a color to be your kind of primary based on what support pieces you want. So for me, it's going to be three pieces. You'll have your agent core, and then you'll have your unison. And honestly, I might play a second unison. I just don't know which one you'd play. It probably based on what color your core is. And then the third part will be your support system. Like I know in Joey's video we saw he ran the green Frieza counterplay.
Mm-hmm.
And so
it's not a bad idea.
Right. So you'll pick whichever counterplay you want to do. The problem is that if you want to do one of the other ones, you'll have to run a unison of that color. So I think green counterplay is pretty much just going to be the main one. But you can also do things like topo if you're running red.
Yeah.
If you're
just going heavier on blue, you can play, bean like
Bean.
most people do.
Or even the new Trunks Negate, which is kind of like topo. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of support systems people pick up for the deck based on what color they kind of lean towards.
Yeah, I think going more with that kind of strategy, if you're playing, the boost secret with that, you're definitely doing the activate main for 6 energy. You're not trying to do it any earlier. You're just, you have those extra non-synergistic cards in there to interact more with your opponent, because the agent core itself, there's a couple of them that do, but there's less than most decks play.
Right. Yeah, so the more I think about it, the more I like the idea of running the Cell Xeno SCR in the deck, because green and yellow, obviously pretty strong colors this set. You're running a lot of green cards like the green counterplay Frieza, which helps with the successor cost, and then you can also have a good amount of pop effects, so you can run like surprise attack Frieza. And so with those combined, you probably could get to 12 easily, because if you do like surprise attack with like say slug in play, so
That's
slug, pop a card,
7
surprise
already.
attack, and then you also have the counterplay, so that's 12 right there. 4, 3, 5, 12.
Yeah. Even without like surprise attack or anything, like the new Broly agent is a 3-drop. The new slug, which is the super combo, which you actually kind of want to have one of them in play anyways because of its auto, which makes your opponent discard 2 cards when they counterplay.
That's pretty good effect.
That one's a 2-drop. The new Android 13, which is basically the Dangerous Journey Bulma of this deck. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what that card does, the Android 13 will let you choose up to a total of 2 either Evil Wizard and or cards with Agent of Destruction in their name, and shuffle them into your deck. So the nice thing about the Boo Secret is that it is an Evil Wizard. A lot of people, when Set 6 came out, were like, what the heck, the secret for the deck's not even an Agent of Destruction, but the Broly is.
Right.
But now, we're kind of full circle back to that, because at least the Android 13 still works with that secret now.
Right, I see.
But the Android 13's a 2-drop as well. And then into yellow, the Garlic Jr., which is a negate, is a 2-drop. And then I kind of like the idea of playing the old Bojack also, because I feel like we're in a world in the game now where locking down someone's leader is backbreaking, more so than before.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you point that out, because over the weekend when we played in Team Wars and the 2 premiere events for 2020, I played Shenron, as a lot of you guys know, and one of the cards that is iconic in that deck, and I think is the effect is undervalued, is the 4-drop Shenron. And what he says is when he comes into play, he can choose one of your opponent's tapped leader cards or battle cards, and next turn it can't attack. So it doesn't keep it tapped like you'd hope, but not being able to attack was a huge deal over the weekend. Because like a lot of decks, first off, you're denying them a draw. Second off, they have other effects when they attack, like the Zamasu leader, which we saw a lot of this weekend. He wouldn't be able to do dual attack. And then Reboot Gohan, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, if you're going up against new Zamasu or Reboot Gohan and you lock their leader down, the game is basically over.
Right.
Especially Reboot Gohan, because they really don't play much of anything, battle card wise to kill you with. Their whole game plan is, awaken, crit a life for triple strike, and then slap a feat Kamehameha on it, and triple crit for 1,000,000.
Right. Yeah, so I think that's a good point for where we think the new deck's going to be. So moving forward a little bit, let's talk about the one-drop Bobbity and just kind of where it sits in the deck nowadays.
So that card facilitates the entire deck no matter which way you go. Obviously, we're going to talk more about the newer style, the value train type of deck. So part of the effect on the one-drop Bobbity is the same as the new leader, which just gets rid of the specified cost of all of your cards with Agent of Destruction as their trait. So that part's the same between the two, so that's not unique or anything. But it does reduce the cost of all Agent of Destruction cards by 1, which does matter a lot. One of the cards we haven't talked about yet is the new extra card for the deck, which is a 1 cost, but it's specified yellow. But if you have this Bobbity out, now it's free. The extra card lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put up to 2 Agent of Destruction cards from that into your hand. And then you can't do it again for the turn. So it's kind of like playing, what was the old card they used in Swap? The 0 cost.
I forget what it's called. Successor
of Hope.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's kind of like that, but they realized that you shouldn't be able to do it 4 times in a turn.
Yeah.
So they put the once per turn restriction on it.
Right. And then also just a point of clarity for that card is the only reason it's able to do that, I think, is because it has a tag that says it counts as an agent, right?
Yeah, it has a permanent that says this card gains Agent of Destruction in all areas. So it's the only extra card to gain a trait other than
the Universe 7.
The Universe 7 one.
Yeah.
So it's basically the Universe 7 card, but Agents of Destruction.
Right, and it could be a 0.
Yeah.
So
your turn 1 play, if you have the Bobbity, charge a blue Windmill Slam Bobbity, and then play the extra card for 0, and you can effectively refill your hand back up.
I'm kind of curious, since do you even need a charge blue, or does the leader say that you can ignore specified for only agents?
Only agents.
So you do need to charge blue turn 1. That's kind of interesting because I haven't seen a lot of lists running like Bean or anything.
The other option, which I was about to mention, is the Hatchiyak, the new Hatchiyak agent. Let me pull that one back up. I had it a second ago. That is basically copies 5 through up to 8 of Bobbity. I personally have it listed as a 3 cost. It does have an activate main for 1 colorless energy to discard the Hatchiyak from your hand, and then you can play up to 1 Evil Wizard Bobbity with an energy cost of 1 from your deck or drop area. So you can mulligan for either the Bobbity or the Hatchiyak, because they both effectively put the Bobbity on the battlefield.
Right, so like if you're going first turn 1, you can just charge, leave the energy up,
Mhm.
combo it off, combo from hand the Babidi turn 1 when they swing, and then turn 2 play that guy, bring out your Babidi, and then you're good to go.
Yep.
It's just a turn later, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's nice to have a couple copies of.
Yeah. So for anyone who's interested in playing the archetype, the Hatchiyak and the Babidi are must includes. The Babidi, absolute 4 of, because you need to see it. The Hatchiyak, it still has a really good effect if you're just playing it, but I think it's nice to have up to 7 copies of your one card that makes your deck work.
Right. I mean, one point of note there also is that you still need to see the Babidi, right? Because it brings from drop. So either way, you need to see it.
Drop or deck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it is. So you
have
actual copies.
You have 7 copies of Babidi effectively to mulligan for one of them.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think that would be pretty accurate.
Or you can play the full 8. You can play 4 Hatchiyak and 4 Babidis. The auto on the Hatchiyak, just so you can see the the utility, is when it's played.
Real quick, is he a 3-drop or a 2-drop?
He is a natural 3-drop. With the Babidi in play, he's a 2-drop.
Okay, so
which
if
means you can free play it
with the leader if the
yeah.
Babidi's in play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but if it's not in play, you need to wait till 3 to play him.
Correct.
Okay, so that's like a worst case scenario.
Yeah. So the auto on the Hatchiyak, when it's played, you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with 4 cost or less, warp it, then place up to 3 battle cards from your opponent's deck drop area at the bottom of their deck in any order.
That's really good.
Yeah, so you get to hit something on the field and you get to hit, their graveyard, which graveyard decks are very prominent nowadays.
Right. I mean, even just at the very least, you're hitting Sparking Negates, you're hitting Sane Instincts, or the the Ribrianne, sorry, and just anything else that decks want to...
Against black decks,
right?
They definitely want things in their drop.
Mm-hmm.
There was that one game we played where Majin Buu attacked your 1-drop Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
And you were like, well, that sucks if you kill the 9-drop now.
Yeah, I can't bring it back.
Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Super relevant. Yeah, so
the Babidi is like the core of the deck.
Right. Safe to say that auto-include in all of the new versions. But, I mean, a key point, I think the key take out of this is you need to charge blue turn 1.
Blue, or if you're, mulling for Hatchiyak, you can charge colorless.
Yeah.
Or
but
not
ideally,
colorless, but whatever.
If you have the Bibidi,
yeah,
if
you're playing blue aside from the Babidi, if you're going the Strength of Legends route or whatever, and you're playing a decent number of blue cards, try to charge blue turn 1. Mm-hmm. Mulligan for blue card Babidi or blue card Hatchiyak. Or even just a Hatchiyak, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so from there, let's move on to the Unison card, which at first, honestly, I wasn't impressed, but after reading it like 3 or 4 times, I think it's kind of busted in half. Like, absolutely broken. Not necessarily on its own, but when you pair it with the leader, I think that card is pretty snapped. And I mean, the reasoning for that is because, first off, when it enters play, you discard a card and then board wipe your opponent, ignoring barrier, I believe.
I almost have it up here.
Okay.
Yes, ignoring barrier.
So that's broken, and it doesn't have any like cost, like
no restrictions,
4 lowers or anything like that. It's just wipe their whole board. Pretty good. And it's in green, which they didn't need more of that.
Yeah, I've seen a lot throughout the community of people being like, well, I don't know what value Unison to play now for my green deck, because the Vegeta, which is the Unison for the Agents of Destruction deck, it has so much versatility to it. I mean, it's a board wipe on an auto, and you can't interact with the Unison coming down. The other, the activate effects on it are great. But then you also have like the Metacooler, which is a promo, so it's a lot harder to get. But that Metacooler is also just insane value. I think, your de facto green unisons are Bardock, Demigra, and then either the Metacooler or this Vegeta. I think all of those are better than the Frieza unisons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So not only does it board wipe when it enters,
Yeah,
the plus one is plus 5k, which at first I was like, okay, whatever. But then I looked and I saw it was a 20k, so I was like, okay, 25k for a unison, that's pretty big. And then I looked again and was like, 25k double strike critical. And was like, okay, Bandai, what are you doing? What are you thinking here? Can't even like really interact with this thing aside from attacking into it, which we all know is easier said than done, or harder said than done.
And that first activate main for the plus 5, that is the only unison ability you can use if you are not playing the new Agents of Destruction leader, because its ultimate ability, I believe it's -5, is restricted to an evil wizard leader. So you have a couple options, I guess. Not good ones, though.
Yeah, no, definitely one good option and a few not good ones.
But what it says is, well, I guess there's two ways to do it. Your leader's Evil Evil Wizard, or all of your energy is mono green. So I guess there's two ways, but still, it's a natural 4-cost unison. Green decks don't really need to drop a unison that late, especially for a full 4. But I guess later, if a game goes late, they can drop it for like 5 or something. 5 or 6.
It does board wipe too, so that's relevant.
It does, yeah. But the effect after that cost restriction is just choose 3 cards in your opponent's hand and discard them.
Right. So,
which is pretty good.
First thought is ditch 3 effects are not common, and at worst, paying 5 to ditch 3 if you just, you board wipe and then ditch 3.
It's still, a slightly worse rate than double Ribrianne, but
you also get a board wipe.
You also get, a 20k double strike crit first.
Right. And not to mention you get to choose the 3 cards. Not that you get to look, you don't get to look at their hand, but it means random. Which is very, very, very different. So, and then, so now that we've covered the unison, let's go to the leader really quick. Specifically his interaction with the unison. On the backside, I believe it says you can pay 3 colorless
and play the unison with 3 markers on it.
Broken.
So this can come down on turn 3, board wipe, and now, if you were in, the losing position, that board wipe might have just swung the game in your favor by a mile.
Right. Or if you're even in a winning position, that's even more.
That's it's like hitting turn 3 Tron and just slamming a Karn down. For, again, Magic players, I'm sure you know the horrors.
Yeah, if you don't, look up Tron lands plus Karn.
It's basically turn 3, the game is over.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the leader again. So he does that. We know he also does no specified for Agents of Destruction. We know he plays a 2 or less from hand for free on swing, or...
I am pulling him up. Alright. Permanent is that Agent of Destruction cards in your hand have no specified cost. The auto on attack is add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, so you can self-awaken, which is relevant.
Useful.
Because there are still a lot of decks where they just, won't attack you. So you can take up to 1 life, and then look at the top 5 cards of your deck and add up to 1 card with Agent of Destruction in its card name to hand. So you can even get the unison with that.
Right.
Which is I think, better than it just being add an Agent of Destruction based off of the character trait.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it only adds bonus value. So I think with Agents of Destruction deck in that effect, you're basically never going to whiff.
No, never.
Like a very small percent.
I mean, you also get to look at 5 cards.
Right, so you get to cherry pick which one you want.
You're probably not gonna whiff. There's so many agents to choose from now. I know back in the day, very rarely, but there were some games where when I could combo, I would realize I only have like 3 agents in the drop on turn 3 in a deck that bursted 2 every turn and drew 1,000,000 cards.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of awkward.
Right.
So that, I mean, with Dende, you were kind of bursting 4.
Yeah, because you draw
burst
2
and draw 2.
Yeah, exactly. And you had ways to ditch them.
Yeah. Ditch them or just combo them on defense.
Right. There still is the rule of thumb that I always play by, though, because I know a lot of people that have poor luck. If you run a way for you to whiff, so like if you ran 5 non-agent cards in your deck, for some reason, like the counterplays or whatever, one of these days it'll happen. You'll just flip.
It does increase the chance of you whiffing.
I mean, it's like the other day when you were playing your Vegex deck and you milled, and it was 4 Champas and a Bibbidi.
That was off of a shuffle too.
Yeah,
that was real bad.
That was insane. So if it can happen, it will happen. Schrodinger, or I think that's the reference, but whatever. Continue.
So then we look at the backside. Well, actually, back to the front. His Awaken is your traditional life is at 4 or less. There's no alternate way to awaken with him.
That's good.
But he is a draw 1, untap 1, which I kind of like.
It's pretty standard these days. I think it's fair.
One downside to the back of your leader is you no longer have card advantage. You don't get to draw or search or anything like that, which I've noticed them doing a lot nowadays with leaders Awaken sides. They give them, a couple really great abilities, no draw power.
Right. I mean, like the Surge leaders are...
Yeah, effectively, I think this is a Surge leader just with a not great Awaken clause compared to them.
Right.
But he keeps his permanent of getting rid of specified cost for agents. He has an activate main, which is why the 1-drop Bobbity is your cornerstone of the deck. It's an activate main once per turn. Choose 1 Agent of Destruction card with an energy cost of 2 or less in your hand and play it. So I think still the only 4-drop is both Janembas. I think every other agent is a 3 or less naturally.
Which means with the Bobbity in play, there are 2 in hand. So you can play them for the leader.
So the only ones you can't free play would be the mono blue Janemba or the dual color. Or the Bojack. The multicolor Bojack is also
right.
a 4-drop.
I don't see people playing those.
No, I don't think you play either multicolor in the deck.
Yeah, probably just the regular
all the
Janemba.
mono colors.
Yeah, the regular Janemba.
And then its other activate main, which we mentioned, transitioning from the Unison to the leader, is the once per turn for 3 energy, choose 1 Unison card with Agent of Destruction in its card name, the Vegeta, in your hand and play it with 3 markers on it. So if you do that, you get your non-conditional board wipe. You can plus it. Now you have a 25k double crit. And it's at 4 markers. Because I believe the +5 is a +1 counter.
Yeah, +1.
So you've got 4 loyalty on your Unison. You've probably got like 4 battle cards in play at that point by turn 3, honestly. And that's like at the earliest.
Right.
You're looking like you're in a pretty good spot in that situation.
Mm-hmm. So let's just go over the curve of the deck real quick. So ideally, we're going to charge blue turn 1. We're going to go Bobbity. Then turn 2, we have reduced costs. So we're going to potentially, hopefully, with our 2 mana play a at least one Agent of Destruction, but if we have two of the 2-cost ones in hand, we can play both of them. So have
The 2 cost is a Turles, which is naturally blue, but with the leader and the Bobbity, it loses specified, so it's
we also have
colorless.
the super combo,
That is true.
which is a 2-cost. So if you have those, you play those. Then turn 3, we're gonna probably. The thing is, though, with turn 3, you'd have to be awakened to play the Unison. So I think
Yes, but you do also have self-awakening on your leader.
true.
So the only way you can't awaken is if your opponent literally just doesn't attack you.
Okay, so turn 3, if you're awakened or have the ability to, we'll flip and play the Unison. If not, we just play more agents. I mean, they're all pretty good cards.
You gotta free play one of them anyways.
Right.
So you can play either one or two of them on turn 2. Turn 3, you can free play one and then either play another one or play your Unison.
Okay, and then turn 4, you mentioned earlier Strength of Legends.
Yeah, so if you're playing
Rainbow.
that quote-unquote engine, which the deck kind of does itself because the agents are all monocolored of all 4 different colors, you just charge one of each color, turns 1 through 4, make sure you have one of each color in the drop. You can swing with what you have on board, bait out any negates or, try and rip cards out of their hand through them having to combo to not take damage. Slap down a Strength of Legends, swing with it, and, you can gauge your opponent from there, or you could even do in the opposite order. Windmill Slam Strength of Legends, swing with it, swing with the rest of your board, and then kind of gauge the situation from there.
Right. One thing to note also is that if your opponent isn't responding well to any of this stuff, theoretically, you could do all of what we said to turn 3, play the Unison plus it, so it's at 4. Turn 4, you could Strength of Legends, have the mana to do its effect, as well as if you have a second Unison, put it underneath it, and then you could minus the Unison after swinging with it to ditch their hand even more. So you have 3 double strike crit attacks.
So with the Unison, I don't think you're ever... Well, if you have one in play already, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you're ever hard casting it because you don't get to take away specified on the Unison.
Right. But so if you have one in play from turn 3, and then you just put one under turn 4, you'll be at 5. And you could minus...
You can swing with it and then -5 to rip 3 cards from their hand.
Right. And then with Strength of Legends, you have a, 40k or 35 or whatever?
I think it's 35.
So 35k.
And then he restands when you activate for one of each color.
Yeah, double crit.
And then dual attack, double strike, crit.
Yeah. So you get effectively
big boy.
3 double crits that turn, which is pretty insane.
Yeah. And that's like... Obviously, that's like... I can't think of the phrase for it. Like Dreamland or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Magical Christmas Land.
Yeah, there we go. That's Magical Christmas Land.
Yeah.
But even if you just slap down Strength of Legends, do all your attacks, and it doesn't go how you want, you still have 4 energy with a cost reducer in play. You can play 2-3 more agents. The Turles is your source of card advantage, because that one on attack, you get to basically do what the front side of your leader does. Look at the top 5 cards, grab an agent. So the Turles is basically your leader's front side. So that's your source of card advantage. I did find an interesting interaction a couple of days ago with both the old slug and the new slug agents. At first, I thought of it wrong because I was thinking of the 4-drop Lord Slug, the non-agent one that revives something from drop, and then I realized that it was the wrong thing. So the The old slug for 1 green lets you play a slug's army with a cost of, I believe it's 3 or less from your hand for 1 green. Which the new super combo, Lord Slug Agent, is also a slug's army tag. So if you have the old slug in play for 1, which I guess is the same as with the Bobbity, you can play that one out too, the new one. So, but you can do that in non-Agent of Destruction decks, which is nice.
Yeah, that's a note that I saw Sandy make on the Facebook the other day, was that none of the new agents are leader tied. So he tagged Reboot Gohan as the leader, as a potential, run some of the new agents, which is pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good overview of how we think of the new archetype. I don't think it's going to be as broken as we kind of initially think it is, because once you learn what a deck can do, play against it a good 10, 20 times, you learn when you need to pressure, when you need to back off, how to survive.
Absolutely.
And I don't see the deck drawing an obscene amount of cards.
No.
So
unless you leave the Turles in play, then
it's, an extra plus every turn, but the leader's not drawing on the backside.
That's true. It's basically like a regular leader.
Right. So I think you should probably awaken the leader as quickly as possible.
Definitely.
Just be prepared for the unison to board wipe you, because it's coming down eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I agree. I don't think it's going to be like format breaking, but I definitely think it's tier 1 deck. Just because of how versatile it is.
Toolbox.
It's a toolbox. It has versatility, lots of interaction across the board, and it's also extremely efficient and synergistic.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts, Tim, about the Agents of Destruction?
I'm just excited to play them again, man.
Yeah.
That's, like I said before, I wrote, pretty, I don't know, I wouldn't call it pretty long, but a very in-depth article of the entire archetype. And I've missed playing it, honestly. It is my favorite deck in the game.
Yeah.
Even to this day. Even more than Vegex or Hatchiyak or whatever else I played before those. I don't even remember now.
Yeah, right. It's like certain people have decks they're known for, and you're probably for Agent of Destruction, you probably played that the most and enjoyed playing it the most.
Yeah, I think probably outside of Russell Stelzer, obviously he's the more well-known player that has agents, tied to his name, but
I heard his new name was Android 13.
Ooh, I'm interested to the story. Another time.
Trucker hat.
Ah, yes. But I think outside of Russell, and not to like clout myself, but I think I'm probably up there, second or third on agents.
That's actually a good point. A lot of the really good players in this game, I mean, some of them obviously are quote unquote famous among our community, but a lot of players I feel like don't get enough credit for their skill, just because they either can't go to events as often or don't produce content or something like that, but they're actually very good players.
Yeah, and it's not even just players. They could, also just be fantastic deck builders, just be able to understand that one thing that you need in deck building that so many people just can't seem to get.
Right.
Which I was grateful that I came from, playing older formats in Magic where you had to understand that. Otherwise, you had no reason playing that format. That's something I've prided myself in, at least locally. And, I've talked with a few people outside of our local area, and I like to think of myself as a very good and thorough deck builder. And I have those couple decks or archetypes where I can also put my money where my mouth is and pilot the deck.
Right. Yeah. So I think that about wraps up our segment on AOD. I mean, that was pretty much what this episode's all about. So we went in depth on everything. If you guys have any questions, like Tim said, feel free to message us on Facebook or message me or Tim directly. Either way,
or even comment in the Podbean feed, or
yeah, we'll be checking all of that
anywhere where we share the episode too.
Mm-hmm. So before we close, we do have one question from a community member, actually a local, our friend Benny. He asked, what is your least favorite unison? Least favorite, and he put 2 tags to that question. Least favorite to play, like which one do you think is the worst, and then also least favorite, like aesthetically and all that jazz.
This one's gonna take me a second. I gotta look through them.
Okay, I'll go first then. I think the worst unison before this weekend actually was the red Vegeta. Now, you probably don't even know what that does, Tim, but
I actually just scrolled past it and was like, wow, that looks atrocious.
Yeah. It says on attack, gain 5, get a counter, and I don't think it has another plus effect. It just has a minus. That's mostly irrelevant.
Yes, it has only 1 unison ability, and it is a -1. It's choose one of your red battle cards or leader cards, and it gets plus 5,000 power and can attack your opponent's battle cards in active mode for the turn.
So I thought that unison was garbage. I did not like it.
Doesn't seem great.
But I mean, it got played against me this weekend in the top cut.
Bulma deck?
No, I think it was the Bulma deck that I played against this weekend in Team Wars, and it wasn't bad. I mean, the fact that it passively just gets counters, it's kind of like the Demigur Unison, where if you just leave it unchecked, it'll just plus counter, plus counter, plus counter, plus counter, and it is a 2-drop, I believe, and
yes,
it goes. It's a 15k, so when it swings, it goes to a 20k, which is relevant.
Yes.
So that was pretty cool, and then making the leader big enough to be able to attack was kind of cool. But overall, I think that unison is basically garbage. If you disagree, comment below, and we can talk about it.
It definitely doesn't look good. I'm
Right.
not a fan of the art on it at all. The other red ones all looking pretty good. I'm roughly familiar with the rest of them. Going through green, all the green ones I think look great. I think the art's great on them. They're all pretty good. Again, the worst ones I think are the 2 different Friezas, the starter deck and the actual set Frieza. They're not great, but they're not terrible.
Yeah, they're just focused.
The blue ones, obviously, Zeno's the go-to. The Kai, I think if the Trunks deck was just overall better, the Kai would be a lot cooler.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty cool unison. I mean, it's got decent effects.
It is.
It's just,
I kind of wish that whole life gain thing worked with it, though.
Right.
And then you could have played like blue-green Chilai.
Bandai, give us life gain Namekians. That's what they should have been to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. The blue ones, all look pretty good.
So if you had to pick one,
what does the yellow Broly do?
He's not great. So if you had to pick one that you just,
that one's really
first impression,
it might be that one.
First impression, the effects you just don't like them.
Yeah, I mean, so also at first I wasn't a huge fan of the Shenron unison.
Mm-hmm. I know you don't like Skillus. It's like old teammate Jack. He used to say it was trash.
I don't know. I didn't think Skillus was in a great place. Obviously, with the reboot hit, playing this unison a lot better.
Yeah. Playing things for free is generally good.
I think it would probably be the yellow Broly.
Mm-hmm.
So that one, it's a 2-drop. It's got an activate main that just rest mode something, ignoring barrier.
Right, and then it's
-1, KOs something 5 or less in rest mode.
But doesn't ignore barrier.
Yeah.
Which you would think it would if it can rest something that ignores barrier.
So its abilities are not synergistic with each other.
Right.
The art's also not that great.
Nope.
It's a little bit better than the Vegeta, but it's still pretty trash in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'd have to go with the Broly overall.
For poor art, I would say the Vegeta expansion Unison.
That one's that one's not too great.
I just think the colors and stuff are kind of clashing. I mean, it's like bright yellow and bright blue hair, and then like light tan skin. They I don't know, it needs a little more contrast.
Oh,
you know,
we forgot about the anniversary box Unisons, and then the promos. The promo ones all look pretty cool. I think that SS3 Gogeta looks kind of weird though.
It's a little weird because it's not very bright. It's like darker.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's probably cooler than the expansion ones.
The Meta Cooler looks fantastic, as you know, everyone knows.
That one,
I really like the Goku and Vegeta Jr. art wise.
It's like chibis.
I like the art to it. I don't even know what the card does.
Yeah, I don't.
Skillless stuff.
Yep.
Not for me.
Alrighty.
But yeah, I'm still gonna go with the yellow Broly.
Yeah.
Probably overall.
That's a good one for least favorite. Any closing thoughts, Tim? Any comments you want to say to the listeners?
Welcome back, fellow agents.
Your time in the old dark deck box is gone.
They're out.
Fresh sleeves.
Mm-hmm. We're back, baby.
We're back. Alrighty. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. This is Sideboard Podcast. Checking out. Peace.
See ya.